My hair is like this much shorter than it needs to be what I want it to be. Like I want to just go back. But, and then, hi, my name is Newt, and welcome to, and this is a new series I want to do called Second Sight. I think that's the name I'm gonna go with. I basically want to do a more relaxed version of these video essays where I kind of watch a clip and deep dive on it and maybe just kind of ramble a little bit longer. Recently, I've been watching a lot of movies, pretty much a new one every day, if not every other day, if I can. And I want to go over 3 movies that I've watched recently and some of the scenes that are in them that I really, really like. Hopefully, this series offers an opportunity to show you different movies that maybe wouldn't have come onto your radar. The first movie I want to talk about, the most recent movie I watched is High and Low by Kurosawa. This movie is fantastic. Let me sit back down. I was trying to get out of frame to show you. Anyway, there are several scenes in this movie that I really like.
Nice.
Music is obviously a great tool to use to emote what your characters are feeling, and this movie has a few moments like that, but I think the most strong one for me is this twinge of sound that they use that almost sounds really modern and techno-y. I think this is a great example of very weird, almost computerized sound. And I'm sure it's not at all. I actually don't know the instrument they're using. I don't think it's actually an instrument at all. Now that I'm in the edit and listening to it over and over, it was probably just a sound effect that they found and did some sort of tape delay. I don't know if that's actually what they did, but that's kind of what it sounds like to me. But it gives this feeling of like twinge to the back of your neck when they are realizing something really frightening. Another movie I watched recently was Haine. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's hate in French. This movie is really good. Spine number 381, by the way, if that's something you care about. Also, High and Low is 24. If you don't know about the spine numbers on Criterion, they put the number on there, from when they released it to the collection. And I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. Anyway, in Haine, one of the first things I want to talk about is actually the introductions to the characters. Each one of them has a really unique and fun introduction. That I think represents each of them really well. The first character is Said, if you said it like an American, I guess. We see the back of him as the camera moves up, and we see what he's been looking at this whole time, which is a bunch of cops. This leads us to believe, obviously, the whole point of the entire movie is probably the juxtaposition between those two people, the cops and the people that are seen to be ignored, if not just fully hated by the cops. And there's a lot of hate going back and forth between them, rightfully so. I feel like it's also the name of the movie. And that's even more punctuated by the children walking by, which I think is a great representation of like, yeah, this shit's still happening, but we are still having to live in this, which is kind of worse. There's children that are having to go to school during all this. They almost have to pretend like this isn't happening, even though it very clearly is. And that is a great introduction to not only the movie, but the first character. Next character we have showing on the screen is Vincent, or Vinz. I love this introduction for, obvious reasons.
C'est lui qui dort, moi je le réveille pas. À chaque fois je me fais engueuler, t'as qu'à essayer toi.
J'espère que les filles vont vous mettre une bonne branlée.
Oh Vince.
Oh, ta gueule, Saïd.
Oh.
I think it's a great way of showing not only his playfulness, but his kind of arrogance to not even get up for his friend when he gets there. He's drooling all over himself. He's like, fuck you, man. You know, it's very much, I'll get up whenever I want type of energy. Oh, God. And our next character is Herbert. Hubert.
Hubert.
He's my favorite character. He's very smart and is throughout the entire time trying to really reason with his other friend Vincent to just calm down. Your anger really isn't going to fix anything. We just need to try to find another solution, which is, I think, equally frustrating from Vincent's perspective, where he's like, no, I'm fucking mad, man. And Herbert's like, yeah, me too, but what are we supposed to do in this situation? And that is really well shown in Herbert's opening, because as the characters are arriving to this big open space, this giant, what looks to be like warehouse, they walk in and you find out it's Herbert's gym. It was his passion to be able to just teach kids in the local area, you know, boxing and helping youth and stuff like that.
What is a ute?
Oh, excuse me, Your Honor. 2 youths.
It was all burned down in the night prior in the riots.
Oh, il est bon ton shit, Vince.
C'est pas le mien, c'est celui d'Hubert. Et t'endors pas sur le joint, Saïd.
Je croyais que tu fumais plus.
Je le croyais aussi.
Eh mais qu'est-ce qui s'est passé ici?
À ton avis?
Another one of my favorite shots in this movie is known as a dolly zoom or a Hitchcock zoom, which is mostly known from Vertigo. The scene where the camera's looking down the stairwell. Jesus.
You suck!
But in this movie, it starts out with Herbert actually trying to like close his eyes and almost block out the loud noise and the entire frustration of the city. To cut to this super wide angle of the entire city, showing all the cars, all the people, and we zoom out to see them in the middle, stuck. As we continue to pull out, it becomes more and more out of focus, which in my mind just pushes the idea of we are not only stuck here, but it is all becoming less and less in focus. It's all making less and less sense. What the fuck do we do?
Bon, alors maintenant, on fait quoi?
Vous deux, je sais pas, et moi je vais téléphoner, faut que j'aille récupérer mon blé.
Which leads literally directly into another one of my favorite shots, which this is seemingly pretty simple, but it is so mind-blowing to me when I saw it. I'm just gonna let you watch it, and then we'll talk about it.
Ouais, allô? Ouais. Ouais, la 13 d'Astérix, s'il te plaît. Ok, j'attends, et me fais pas poireauter pendant. Eh, moi je vous dis à 15 francs de Coca-Cola qu'il y a intérêt que ce soir je retrouve mon argent. T'attends un peu, Vince? Ça va un peu de Coca-Cola? T'en veux pas?
Non.
T'es sûr?
Ouais.
Un peu? Cousin Hub, tu veux un peu de...
You have all three characters on screen, and the two that have been kind of at odds at each other are facing away. And the one in the middle is the arbiter between them, the one that's been trying to make peace.
Quoi? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Qu'est-ce qui fait la gueule là? Moi je fais pas la gueule moi.
Oh, j'y crois pas.
Vas-y, demande-le à l'autre là-bas.
Comment vous êtes trop relou, 2 moments.
And when it does cut to a wider shot, which makes the scene a little bit more geometrically makes sense, at the same time, they're still even more split across the versions of them in the mirror and the ones that are actually in the scene. I mean, this is one of my favorite mirror shots. It's one of my favorite duality shots between characters. There's so much in this one scene that and then by the way, you should watch it because it leads to another scene where they have a big argument and a little tiny short man walks out of the shitter out of the stall and tells them this weird story that to me is basically him saying, guys, just be happy with what you got and the friends you have because they might not be here always. You'll be really wanting them to be around to do just simple things once they're gone. And I think that's a really beautiful way to have them be brought out of that fright. And the last movie I'm going to be talking about today that I watched recently is Lost Highway by David Lynch. This is available on the Criterion Collection, but I found it on the just regular Blu-rays, and I'm a little bit of a cheapo, so if I can find it for cheap, I'm definitely going to bet it. I mean, just to be truthful, a lot of my favorite scenes in Lost Highway have to do with... There's so much sex in it! Ow! So ashamed of myself. I'm so don't look. I mean, there is a lot of sex in this movie. I think David Lynch was just like, yeah, it's important. Now keep going. But all the sex aside, there is this really great scene that I love that actually reminds me a lot of the Man in Black from the Dark Tower series. This really white-faced man walks up and introduces himself to the main character.
We've met before, haven't we?
And I'm sure I'm just seeing the Dark Tower everywhere because I love that, series, and I myself have been inspired by it with my first short film.
Hey, you're here all the time, aren't you?
I do see this guy as this almost omnipotent being that just comes in and out of reality just to kind of fuck with the main character for no real reason other than just to fuck with him. And just like I have in another video, you should check that out, by the way, about diegetic audio. This scene has a great example of that, where there is music being played at the party, and when it gets cut out, it is creepy and abrupt. And so when the guy finally speaks and it's really clear, you realize that, like, no, we haven't lost our hearing. It's almost like this guy has turned everyone else off, and we will be having our conversation. And that is creepy, and I love it. What do you think? Anyway, that is my first episode of this series. I don't know, let me know what you think. It's a bit of a more, laid back, like I said, version. I actually don't know how this is going to cut together. So let's see if I'm able to make this funny in the edit.
You suck!